Hi, ladies. I'm doing something new. I'm driving and talking because I had this idea and I wanted to go ahead and capture it. I don't know. For some reason, when I wear green, I feel like I like talking about money. I don't know. Does that happen to you? So I had this on my mind, and it's a lesson that I learned in my 20s. And I'm hoping that this can spread out to the feminine collective. And this was the lesson about learning to ask. Even if I was going to be perceived as like, oh, you should already know this about money, and it's about having healthy finances. What can I do? How can I set up systems? Not asking for money, but what are some ways to grow my money, right? Learning how to ask good questions. And I think a lot of us women kind of get trapped sometimes. I know I did. And this is advice that I would that I'm going to give to my niece. This is the advice I give to my girlfriends who ask. But I feel like there's this perception of, well, if I wasn't raised in a household where money was talked about a lot and, it just wasn't brought up, I feel embarrassed to ask, right? Because I feel like everybody else knows what they should be doing or what to do or how to create healthy finances. And I feel like this is a big miss, especially for us women. And I'm hoping one of my online mentors, her name is Mina Irfan, and I can't remember if this is her quote or if this is a quote that her mom said to her. But it's one that I love and has really stuck with me. And that is bloom where you're planted, right? And why do I bring this up? Because I had to learn eventually when I had made some money mistakes and I had gotten, I wasn't at the place that I wanted to be. I was noticing that some people were offering, to help. I didn't share a lot with a lot of people, but about what was really going on. But then finally just realizing that keeping everything to myself wasn't working and I wasn't getting in a better position. And look, we have this idea that, well, we weren't maybe raised in a household that talked about money and other people are, so other people know and we don't, right? Which keeps us kind of closed off or not wanting to bring it up because we feel like we'll be perceived that we don't know what we're talking about, or, oh gosh, you don't know that already, or something like that, right? That was my fear, at least. But I finally got to a point where I realized, I need to ask, not specifically ask for money, but I need to ask questions so I can learn. Because look, ladies, this is my belief, at least for my situation. In education, unless you're getting a finance degree, we're not taught about money. Nobody teaches us about money. And so this idea of, well, I have an education, I should know this, but I don't. So in order not to be perceived as, oh, I don't know what to do, I keep quiet. Or I've seen situations where instead of asking for, hey, can you teach me about what you know about money? What's something that you know that I should know? Or what are the lessons about money? I've also seen people ask for money, but the higher vibration question versus asking for money is teach me about money. And I'm really hoping as the years go on, and again, women having money is a newer thing, right? We didn't always have careers. We didn't always have ways to earn money. So this is not a knock on us women. This is just, hey, we're kind of early at the stage, and a lot of us are figuring it out. And a lot of us have figured it out. And we are open to offering this wisdom or pieces of advice, but women have to ask. And I found this with wealthy people and people who have figured things out. A lot of them are willing to share tips, ideas, like things that are going to help you, not just to give you $1, but to teach you how do you grow $1, right? That's more, I feel like, more important and valuable than getting $1, is being taught how do I grow $1. And a lot of people are generous with their knowledge and tips, but you have to ask. And I feel like this is what keeps women stuck. This is what holds women back. And I've also heard women say, well, I don't know a lot about finances. I just don't know like what I should do. And then they end up not taking any steps at all because they don't know what the right step is. And I totally get that. I've even seen situations where two women had been friends for like over a decade. And, you know, later into the friendship, one of them finally gets brave and asks about money. And her girlfriend's like, oh yeah, I'm happy to help you. But seeing that there's a miss, like she could have asked 10 years earlier and been in a completely different situation. So this is where I come back to advice I would give, you know, myself, I'm going to give to my niece, is learn how to ask good questions and drop the feeling of being perceived as like you should have known this by now or whatever. Drop your ego, because your future self will thank you. I finally, and sadly for my situation, it kind of took me making all these mistakes and falling down to the point where I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm not in a situation that I want to be in. I never thought I would be here. And now I have no ego left. Like, how do we get out? How do we get to a better place? And so this idea of bloom where you're planted, ladies. Again, most of us have not been taught about finances. If you've gone through high school, college, whatever, even if I took, I took like a personal finance class, and it's interesting because I remember my mom saying, you know, because they didn't grow up talking about money either. You know, there was always the need for it, but not really talking about how to manage it, you know, earn, save, invest, as I like to call it. And I remember my mom being like, well, but I remember you took this personal finance course. And I'm like, yeah, Mom, that was a one-time course. And the thing with one-time courses for me is I can learn concepts in a moment, but if I'm not putting that into practice within 6 months to a year, a lot of times I forget the knowledge, because then I'm off to the next course, or I'm off to the next thing to learn, or I'm off to focusing on the skills that are going to help me in my career or my job, or help me, you know, focus on skills that are going to help me in my relationship or, you know, motherhood, right? There's always that next thing. So just remember, ladies, most of us don't know anything about finance. We really don't. Let alone knowing, you know, having the knowledge, but then dropping it down, into our body and putting it into practice, right? So I want to encourage you to just be like, okay, I'm here. This is where I'm at. And if you're in a place where you know that you could be, or you desire to be in a place where you're in a healthier situation with finances, just say, you know what? I'm going to bloom where I'm planted. And not everybody knows this, so I'm not the one that's behind. Guys, there are people in their 60s that are still figuring this stuff out. But they didn't ask the questions. They didn't have the courage to ask the questions. And that is what I want to encourage my niece to do. That is what I want to encourage my girlfriends to do that come to me, that ask. Because again, not everybody's ready, right? And we all have had different upbringings. We've all received different messages about finances. And trust me, just because you took one course isn't going to be the magic wand. So if you're interested in this more, I have a series on, I believe it's a savings mindset. Definitely check out those videos, because I'm hoping that we can start to normalize this as women. I hope that we can start having these conversations more and feel more comfortable talking with each other. And if there's one woman that's 2 steps ahead, not letting that intimidate us or keep us from speaking up, and asking those right questions, asking the questions, hey, is there any lessons that you've learned? Hey, how do you have your paycheck? Do you have a paycheck routine? What do you do for that? What are you thinking about? What do you think about savings? Asking these questions, because people are willing to help, but they're not going to help unless you ask. And I'm so grateful that I learned this lesson in my 20s. And it took me, feeling like I'm falling to my knees and dropping to the bottom. Of course, a lot of times that's how I learn lessons. Unfortunately, I learned the hard way. But I'm glad I learned that lesson and was able to start putting my ego aside and asking the right questions. So anyway, like I said, today my message is for you to remember, bloom where you're planted. And I embody this as well. And just owning where you're at. There's no need to beat yourself up about it. It is what it is. And the good news is that there are resources and there are people where you can get support. And again, I'm not saying go read one book and then all of a sudden jump in and do things. No, spend the next couple of months listening to podcasts, right? Get multiple people's perspective, because the way one person handles their finances, maybe that's just not your way, right? Everybody has different ways in what feels right to them and what feels good to them. So I always try to make sure that I get multiple different people's perspectives from, different careers, people who have shared their money lessons. So I hope you can do this, and I hope this is helpful for you, and wishing you all the best.